A man changes his Wi-Fi password, leading his neighbor to call 911 on him. But when the police arrive, they uncover something far more unsettling. Ethan Wallace wasn't the type to seek unnecessary attention. He worked from home, kept his yard tidy, and only spoke to his neighbors when absolutely necessary. Most people left him alone, and that was exactly how he preferred it. But one seemingly trivial decision put him under scrutiny. It all started on a Thursday afternoon in Brookhaven, Missouri. Ethan had just finished a long morning of work and decided to take a break by checking his internet speed. Lately, his Wi-Fi had been slower than usual. Video calls were buffering, and music streams were lagging. At first, he blamed his service provider, but something felt off. Digging a little deeper, he accessed his router settings from his phone and noticed an unfamiliar device connected to his network. The name wasn't a random jumble of letters and numbers. It looked like someone had deliberately labeled it Brookhaven I-01. That was strange. Ethan lived alone and only had a few devices connected: his phone, laptop, and TV. He wasn't the type to share his password, so who was using his internet? Irritated, he decided to remove all unknown devices from his network and reset his password. Stepping outside for a stronger signal, he leaned against the side of his house, typing in the new credentials. That's when Margaret Benson saw him from her kitchen window. She spotted Ethan standing in his driveway, staring at his phone, fingers moving quickly across the screen. To her, it looked suspicious. She had never fully trusted him, not for any concrete reason, but because he never seemed interested in being part of the neighborhood. He didn't attend block parties. He barely spoke to anyone. And now, here he was, standing outside, fiddling with something on his phone. Her mind immediately jumped to the worst conclusion. He was hacking. She didn't know what or why, but she felt it in her gut. Something wasn't right. Before she could talk herself out of it, she grabbed her phone and dialed 911. Yes, I need to report something suspicious. My neighbor, he's outside doing something with his phone. I don't know what, but it looks off. Can you send someone to check it out? The dispatcher asked a few questions, but Margaret had no real answers. She just kept repeating the same thing. He's up to something. I just know it. The police were on their way. Ethan had no idea that his quiet afternoon was about to turn into a full-blown investigation. But what neither of them knew was that the real danger had nothing to do with Ethan at all. Ethan had just finished updating his Wi-Fi password when he heard the sirens. At first, he barely paid attention. Maybe they were headed somewhere else. But then, he saw the squad car slow down and stop right in front of his house. Two officers stepped out. One was a tall, broad-shouldered man with sharp features, Detective Marcus Delgado. His partner, Officer Naomi Hayes, had a more compact frame, but carried herself with quiet authority. Ethan exhaled slowly. Here we go. He didn't move as the officers approached. Delgado's hand rested near his belt, not on his gun, but close enough to send a message. "Sir," Delgado said, his voice steady, "we got a call about some suspicious activity. Mind telling us what you're doing?" Ethan frowned, glancing between the officers. Suspicious activity? He was standing in his own driveway. "I'm changing my Wi-Fi password," he said, his tone edged with confusion, but still calm. He knew how situations like this could escalate. Delgado exchanged a quick glance with Hayes before turning back to Ethan. "Do you live here?" Ethan almost laughed. What kind of question was that? His car was in the driveway. His name was on the mailbox. "Yeah," he replied, crossing his arms. "I've lived here for 3 years." Before Delgado could respond, a voice cut through the air. He's lying. Ethan turned. There she was, Margaret Benson, standing on her porch, arms folded, watching like she was the neighborhood security guard. He's always outside doing something, she continued, messing with his phone, looking around like he's watching people. Now he's been standing there for 10 minutes, just tapping away. Ethan couldn't believe it. Was she serious? I was on my router settings, he said flatly, because someone I don't know has been using my Wi-Fi. Margaret scoffed. Oh, sure. And I'm supposed to believe that? Delgado turned to her. Ma'am, do you have any evidence that Mr. Wallace has done something illegal? Margaret hesitated, because of course she didn't. She just had a bad feeling. I don't know, Margaret admitted. I just think you should check. Detective Delgado exhaled, his patience wearing thin. He turned back to Ethan. Sir, would you mind if we take a quick look at your router settings just to clear this up? Ethan clenched his jaw. He shouldn't have to prove anything, but he also knew how these situations could escalate fast. Fine, he muttered, unlocking his phone and pulling up the settings. Here, take a look. Delgado leaned in, scanning the list of connected devices. That's when his expression shifted, because there it was. Brookhaven I-01. Who owns that device? Delgado asked. Ethan shook his head. Not me. Officer Hayes stepped in, raising an eyebrow. So someone's been using your Wi-Fi without permission? Ethan nodded. And I don't think they were just stealing internet. Look at the connection logs. It's been running non-stop. Someone's been watching. Delgado's posture changed. This wasn't just a petty neighbor dispute anymore. Margaret, still standing on her porch, suddenly looked uneasy. Wait, what do you mean watching? Ethan turned to her, his expression cold. I mean, someone has been spying, and they might be watching all of us. Silence fell over the front yard. Ethan's words lingered in the air. Margaret, who had been so convinced she was in the right, suddenly felt a chill. Spying? That wasn't what she expected to hear. Delgado straightened up, his voice now serious. All right, let's get inside. I want to see exactly what we're dealing with. Ethan didn't argue. He led the officers into his house, frustration simmering beneath the surface. He hadn't done anything wrong, yet here he was, being treated like a suspect in his own home. Margaret hesitated before following. She didn't know why, but something told her she needed to hear this. Inside, Ethan placed his phone on the dining table and mirrored the router settings onto his laptop screen. The device list appeared. There it was again. Brookhaven I-01. Still connected, still active. Officer Hayes leaned in, scanning the details. Can you see what kind of device this is? Ethan clicked around, his fingers moving fast. I can't tell exactly, but he opened the activity logs and froze. Delgado noticed his reaction. What is it? Ethan's throat went dry. It's been accessing camera feeds. The room went dead silent. Margaret blinked. I don't understand. What camera feeds? Ethan's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Mine. He turned the laptop around. My home security cameras. Someone's been logging in and watching my live feeds. Officer Hayes's expression tightened. You're saying someone has been spying on you through your own security system? Ethan exhaled sharply. That's exactly what I'm saying. But then, his stomach dropped. The more he scrolled, the more he realized it wasn't just his cameras. His system had flagged multiple IP addresses, some from his network, but others. Different homes. Oh, this is bad, Ethan murmured. Delgado leaned closer. What do you mean? Ethan tapped the screen. Whoever this is, they're not just watching me. They're watching other people in the neighborhood. Margaret took a step back, shaking her head. Number. No, that can't be right. Ethan turned to her. You sure about that? He clicked another log. A new feed opened, a dimly lit hallway, then a living room, then a bedroom. Margaret gasped. Wait, that's... Ethan didn't even have to ask. He recognized it immediately. It was her house. She stumbled backward, pressing a hand to her mouth. Delgado's voice was sharp. How the hell is this happening? Ethan gritted his teeth. If I had to guess, someone in the neighborhood set up a fake network, a Wi-Fi signal that looks like a normal connection. People unknowingly connect to it, and once they do, their devices get compromised. Hayes's face darkened. You mean a man-in-the-middle attack? Ethan nodded. Exactly. Margaret's voice shook. So you're saying someone's been, what? Watching me? My family? Ethan's eyes didn't leave hers. That's exactly what I'm saying. Margaret sank into a chair, her hands trembling. Oh my God. Detective Delgado's jaw tightened. All right, we need to figure out who's behind this, and fast. But what none of them knew was that the person responsible was much closer than they thought. Detective Delgado didn't waste a second. He pulled out his radio and called in for cybercrime support. This is bigger than we thought, he muttered to Officer Hayes. If someone's running a surveillance network, they're not just invading privacy, they're committing a felony. Hayes nodded, her expression serious. And if we don't stop them now, who knows how far they've already gone? Ethan, still seated at his laptop, was already digging deeper. He wasn't a hacker, but he knew enough about network security to trace where the data was being sent. He opened the IP logs and froze. Wait, this can't be right. Delgado looked up. What? Ethan turned the laptop screen toward them. The data isn't going to some random server. It's being sent to an address right here in the neighborhood. Margaret's eyes widened. You mean someone close by is behind this? Ethan nodded. It's coming from a house just a few doors down. Delgado's expression darkened. Can you pinpoint exactly which one? Ethan worked quickly, cross-referencing connection timestamps with signal strength. Within minutes, he had a match. His stomach dropped. He recognized the address. So did Margaret. No, she whispered, shaking her head. That's... Ethan cut her off, his voice cold. That's Ryan's house. Ryan Carter, Margaret's own nephew, a 22-year-old college student who had moved in with her a few months ago. He was quiet, always on his computer, barely socialized. Suddenly, everything made a whole lot more sense. Margaret's face went pale. Number. No, that doesn't make any sense. Ryan isn't. He wouldn't. Hayes stepped in. We need to talk to him. Now. Margaret hesitated. She didn't want to believe it, but deep down, something in her gut told her it was true. I'll take you to him, she murmured. Ethan stood. I'm coming too. Delgado shot him a sharp look. Number. You stay here. Let us handle this. Ethan clenched his jaw. He hated sitting back when he was the one who uncovered everything, but he also knew pushing back wouldn't help. Fine, he muttered. But you'd better get the truth out of him. But the truth? It was worse than any of them imagined. Margaret's hands shook as she led Delgado and Hayes down the street to her house. Every step felt heavier than the last. Ryan, the kid she had taken in, the one she had helped through school, it couldn't be him. And yet, deep down, a voice in her head whispered, what if it is? She opened the front door, calling out, Ryan, can you come downstairs for a minute? No answer. Delgado exchanged a look with Hayes before stepping inside. We're going up. Margaret didn't argue. She just wrapped her arms around herself, her breath unsteady. They climbed the stairs, reaching Ryan's bedroom door. It was shut. No sound inside. Delgado knocked hard. Ryan, this is the police. We need to talk. Still nothing. Then, the sound of movement. A chair scraping. Footsteps. Hayes's hand hovered over her gun. Open the door. Now. Slowly, the doorknob turned. The door creaked open. Ryan Carter stood there, looking startled, nervous. His eyes darted between Delgado, Hayes, and his aunt. His hands fidgeted at his sides. What's going on? He asked, his voice tight. Delgado studied him. We have reason to believe you've been accessing private security cameras in the neighborhood. You want to explain that? Ryan's face barely flinched, but his fingers curled slightly, like he was gripping something invisible. What? That's crazy. He scoffed. I don't know what you're talking about. Hayes wasn't buying it. Mind if we check your laptop? His jaw tightened. You don't have a warrant. Delgado stepped closer. Ryan, we can get one. But right now, we're giving you a chance to tell us the truth before this gets worse. A long, tense beat. Then, Ryan exhaled. Look, He ran a hand through his hair. I wasn't doing anything illegal, okay? Delgado cut him off. Then why is your IP address linked to a network breach involving multiple homes? Ryan froze. Margaret's voice broke. Ryan, please tell me you're not involved in this. His eyes darted to her, and for the first time, his mask cracked. I didn't mean for it to get this far, he muttered. It started as a joke. I just wanted to see if I could get into someone's Wi-Fi, just to mess with them. Delgado's voice was sharp. So you admit you hacked into the network? Ryan hesitated. Then he nodded. Margaret's breath caught in her throat. Ryan kept going, his voice faster now. It was just supposed to be a prank, but then I saw the security cameras and I got curious. Hayes's eyes narrowed. Curious or obsessed? Ryan didn't answer. Delgado's patience ran out. How many people have you watched? Silence. Then, his voice dropped. I don't know. Margaret staggered back. Oh my God. Ryan finally looked at her. For the first time, real regret crossed his face. I swear I wasn't hurting anyone, he said. Delgado didn't let him finish. Ryan Carter, you're under arrest for unauthorized access to a computer network and unlawful surveillance. Ryan went pale. Wait, no, Hayes was already pulling out the cuffs. Margaret turned away, covering her face as tears welled in her eyes. Ethan had been right all along. And the worst part? She had called the cops on him, while the real danger had been inside her house the entire time. But this wasn't over yet. Ryan didn't resist. He stood there, wrists bound in cuffs, staring at the floor as Delgado read him his rights. It was over. Margaret's breath was shaky. She couldn't even look at him. This was her nephew, the boy she had taken in, fed, supported, and he had been violating the privacy of their entire neighborhood. Delgado guided Ryan toward the door, but before stepping out, he turned to Ethan, who had been watching from the sidewalk. You were right, Delgado admitted. If you hadn't caught this, we might have never known. Ethan didn't respond at first. He just let out a slow breath, looking between Ryan and Margaret. Then, finally, he spoke. You know what's crazy? His voice was calm, but the weight behind it was unmistakable. I was out here minding my business, changing my own Wi-Fi password, and yet, somehow, I was the one who got the cops called on me. Margaret flinched. She had no defense, because there was none. I was wrong, she murmured. I made an assumption, and it was completely unfair. Ethan let that sit in the air for a moment. Then, shaking his head, he turned toward his house. I don't need an apology, he said over his shoulder. Just do better. And with that, he went inside. Delgado and Hayes exchanged a look before leading Ryan toward the patrol car. Margaret stayed behind, standing alone in the middle of the street. The truth had been right in front of her all along, but she had been too busy looking at the wrong person. And that mistake, it would haunt her for a long, long time. Assumptions have consequences. Jumping to conclusions based on bias or paranoia can ruin innocent people's lives while the real danger goes unchecked. Instead of making judgments without evidence, take a step back. Observe. Listen. The truth might not be what you expect. If you found this story eye-opening, share it. You never know who needs to hear this lesson today.